Cheers, guys. Epix911, welcome to the Elitist Geek VR news for July 29th on a Friday. Cheers to the Friday. Could not come too soon, let me tell you. Now, before I get into the news, I just want to quickly talk about the tripod video that I released a few days ago. A bunch of you, the charge led by Decapper, indicated that my hands-down best solution wasn't the best solution for them, and that is awesome because, and he included this in the initial post to me, a link to extension support rods, which are floor to ceiling, right? And they're meant for construction, but they're single pole. Mounting a camera on that, it's way less, intrusive than the tripod, which isn't that intrusive to begin with, but it's still narrower. You can put your camera higher. There's definite advantages to it for sure. So I'm going to order one of those. I'm going to take a look at it, but to make it worthwhile, because I still love the tripods, right? This is going to be just strictly for the channel to take a look at that as another option. But I will also look at some of those other unanswered things that we talked about, like some of the other room VR stuff. So I'll bundle it into a video piece that deals with more than just using the extension support rods. But anyways, Decapper and the rest of you who mentioned it, much appreciated. It looks awesome. Can't wait to try it and talk about it. Now, on to the news. The first one kind of blew me away because it was higher than I thought. And what the hell am I talking about? Well, there was a sales brochure leak, and whether it was intentional or not, I don't know. But it's come to light on Polygon.com that the floor space requirements for the Sony PlayStation VR is 9.8 feet, right, by 6.2 feet. Now, metric-wise, roughly 3 meters by 2 meters, which is significantly more than I personally thought. Like, I would have guessed 2 by 2 feet, right? So similar to the seated VR experience, the stand-up version would be one step forward, one step backward, or a step to either side, right? Because in a chair, let's face it, what are you doing? You could lean forward, backward, same idea, same concept. That was my thought. Well, with 9.8 feet, that's obviously a higher level of tracking. It's a bit more sophisticated in terms of the range as well. So it's higher than I thought. I'm not sure if that's a bad thing or a good thing. We'll find out as we get closer, but it's definitely something I will pay attention to now because, like I said, that's significantly more than I would have guessed. Like if you would have asked me 3-4 months ago, yeah, 2 by 2 feet, that would have been my guess. So interesting. Can't wait to see where they go with that. The next story has to do with Everspace, which is a roguelike space game. Kind of like Elite Dangerous in terms of how it looks, right? It's a space game with your ship. You upgrade your ship. It has roguelike elements. So there's randomized content. There's better upgrades that you want. And those upgrades may be randomized to some extent, right? So all the different pieces of gravy that it gives you adds up to a game that, like almost any roguelike, has a much higher replay value. So this one immediately caught my interest. Now, there are some concerns, and the concerns are the usual ones, right? It's early access, and I'm not going to beat that one to death, but you guys know early access, hit or miss. But this is one where I could see it hitting, right? It's not on Steam, which I kind of wish it would be on Steam. It's offered through their website directly, but the beta fee gives you a beta key so that you can play it. So I'm leaning towards doing that. I probably will because I'm really wanting another style game like Eve Valkyrie, Elite Dangerous, and this one looks perfect. More down my alley than the House of the Dying Sun one did. So really looking forward to that and checking it out. So yeah, like I said, 9.8 by 6.2 feet. So college dorms, university dorms. I don't even know if that would fit. I guess unless you share the space. As we find out more, we'll talk about it and we'll revisit that. And again, that's on polygon.com, so I will include that. Now, the next thing was to do with a tweet from Chet Falchek. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly there, Chet. But he tweeted that while there's over 185 Steam VR games on their VR sale, there are approximately 400 applications in general that have to do with virtual reality. Now take that number with a massive grain of salt because there is guaranteed a high volume of schlock and cruft in that 400, right? Because remember, it's not just games. They're talking applications too. It's Steam. It's mostly games, but there are some different applications. So keep that in mind that a lot of them are probably cruft. And you have to determine for yourself, where does it stop being a value, right? And that's the big underlying question. So you've got 400 games. How many of them are good? Focus on the ones that are good. Get those games. The rest you can wait, right? The worst thing you can do is just start buying everything. And trust me, been there, done that. And then you don't end up playing half of it, which sucks. So what I try to do now, and I haven't been as good with the VR stuff, is purchase the things that I know I'm going to like or that I just want to experience maybe for the first time, right? And more or less have them in sequence. So we'll find out. But 400 is a big number. But again, take it with a massive grain of salt because that really doesn't mean anything. At the end of the day, even if they only had 5 games, if those 5 games are awesome, like the NEC or NES when it launched had, I think it was like 40 something titles, and that's it for like the first year. So in North America, that is, right? So to have something similar, well, we'll see. But it's definitely not 400 awesome games. Now, the next story takes place at Siggraph 2016, which is that video conference. And what NVIDIA did specifically is they tied an HTC Vive with one of their massively powered workstations, with one of the massively overpriced GPUs. Well, overpriced would be up for debate, but for the enterprise level. And the author noted that the results were just absolutely stellar, like beautiful and very, very enterprise in terms of complexity, polygon count. The demo had a car that you could assemble and disassemble. I don't know to what degree you could do either of those, right? But amazing is what the author says in terms of the detail. And that goes into all that other stuff, the training, not just games, right? There's so many areas that it could branch off to that alone gives me the excitement. So that's NVIDIA with their super duper workstation. Check that out if you have time. And let me know what you think. The next company, Insomniac Games, they're known for stuff like Ratchet and Clank and other games. Now, I enjoyed Ratchet and Clank. Which one was the one I'm trying to think that I enjoyed the most? Was probably their PlayStation 3 game, which came around launch, 2007, I want to say. That was a good title. I really, really enjoyed that. Not so much with the later ones, but that's irrelevant because they're not programming another Ratchet and Clank. So they've come out with Edge of Somewhere, which is basically a virtual reality game that has gotten really, really good reviews. But more importantly is the experience they gain from that. What does it mean for the game still to come, right? Down the pipe from these guys. And that's what I'm stoked about, and I can't wait to find out what they have. Having those kind of tools in the developer's hands early, right? So we look at the Insomniac games, and you look at the tool sets available. A lot of this stuff is new, right? So you're literally like with kids, when they don't know that something is supposed to be impossible, they usually try it and they succeed, right? Whether it's a 6-year-old whiz on the piano, right? Or the kid who can master half a dozen languages, right? Part of that is just the simple psychological fact of that person not knowing what the limits are, having no limits. That naivety can basically make all kinds of wicked cool stuff happen. So hopefully that's going to be the case with these guys, with Insomniac. So the titles that come after Edge of Somewhere benefit from all of that. And I have no reason to suspect that won't be the case. And that is awesome. Can't wait to see what they come up with next. The Vive parent company, HTC, had put $100 million aside for virtual reality investment. Well, we're finally getting some details on where the money is going. We don't know how much. We don't know what specifically, but there's a list of 33 companies, and I will include that on the link below, that have taken up HTC on that. Now, 50% are Chinese companies, and I have no problem with that. Obviously, anybody who's doing, that kind of funding is going to encourage local developers, if we're talking programming, right, to get involved. That's going to be usually a desire, and that's no different here. I don't see that 50% as a bad thing, because that just means the other 50% worldwide can work on innovative, cool, new virtual reality scenes, assets, code, you name it. So I am super, super stoked about that. And again, they haven't said how much money is being pegged to what. So I don't suspect that's all going to come out, but we'll definitely have a clearer picture, probably even just 4 weeks from now, on what type of money we're talking about and where specifically it's going. Well, that's about it, guys. That's it for the news for this week. I am going to now chillax on the arcade and play some other games. As always, guys, cheers.